Hi, I'm Professor Rick Rapetti, and in this talk, I want to discuss what I call philosophical confirmation. This is by analogy with the sacrament of confirmation that I underwent, I think at around age 10, um, maybe a little younger or a little older. I don't know, I might have been in third or fourth grade. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I was even younger, maybe age 8, second grade or something like that. Because I went to Catholic grammar school. I was raised Catholic. You know, when you're born as a Catholic, you are baptized shortly after you're born with water and spirit. The priest baptizes you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This is a kind of blessing that I learned later on in religious study in Catholic school, that this kind of counteracts original sin, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that properly, but I just want to put this in context. And then around age of 7, you take the Eucharist, which is the sacrament of Holy Communion, where the priest blesses the bread, and in some churches also the wine, and it's considered to metaphysically transform the substance into the body and the blood of Christ. And you consume it in church, and that's communion. And so there are sacraments that are important rituals or rites of passage in the path, theological path of being a Catholic or a Christian. Many different forms of Christianity have similar rituals and practices. I believe in Eastern Orthodox religion, at least in Greek Orthodox, communion and confirmation, which I'll talk about in a moment, are performed at about 6 months old. For Catholics, communion happens around 7, and confirmation happens normally between 11 and 15 or 16. I think I was younger when it happened to me. But it was a long time ago, so I don't remember clearly. But what I understand from my memory, at least this is how it was presented to us by the nuns, was that we were raised with this religion. We weren't given a choice, but now we have a choice. And we are old enough to reason for ourselves and think for ourselves and decide whether or not we agree with this religion and accept it as our own. We confirm that we are voluntarily Catholic. Okay, now, retroactively, I doubt that I was old enough or had reached the age of reason enough to really do that authentically. I think most the kids my age were looking forward to some kind of party at home where they might get something like a watch or something like that. But I don't remember anyone ever saying no. I don't confirm. Although that might be happening nowadays. Culture has shifted a lot since then. The idea that you reach the age of reason, even if you were maybe 18 when you were asked to do Catholic confirmation, right, you're a young adult. Suppose you have reached the age of reason and are capable of autonomous thinking, of being able to say no, which is one of the first and most important and powerful signals or symbols of an individual's autonomy or free will. When a little kid learns to say no, right? Even if you've learned that, well, you've already kind of been indoctrinated for 18 years. All your family and friends and neighbors are probably in the same belief system that you're in. And any principles and values and goals and worldviews and perspectives and just modes and ways of seeing and being and experiencing and carrying yourself have already been shaped by this kind of philosophical belief system. So even if you try to step outside of it to kind of evaluate it, most of the tools that you're going to use to evaluate it came out of the system, right? So it would be even problematic as a young adult. not just as a 10 or 11-year-old. In any event, my purpose here is not to criticize how young I was when I did the Catholic confirmation thing. So I went through a process like that in my mid to late teens anyway, on my own, when I started learning about other religions and having, you know, different kinds of spiritual experiences and really listening to what was going on in the church and reading the Bible for myself and that sort of thing. In any event, so I teach philosophy now, and one of the things that I try to encourage my introductory philosophy students, who are maybe 17, 18, 19, 20, maybe they've been in college for a year or two before they took a philosophy class, is that studying philosophy, particularly inside a philosophy course, that's ideal because the student has elected to take philosophy. It's usually an elective. I don't think anybody ever requires it. But they've devoted themselves at least maybe 3 hours a week to listening to philosophy. But in my classes, I encourage them, well, they've given themselves that time, but I encourage them to think of this time as a time during which an extended process of doing what, I'm making the analogy with Catholic confirmation, what I call philosophical confirmation. So you're a young adult, you've got a bunch of beliefs and values and goals and perspectives and ways and modes of being and perceiving and acting and choosing and deliberating and principles that guide you. Most of it you took on by osmosis, right, from the society around you. It's almost as if there's a kind of Mexican-American shamanistic philosopher named Don Miguel Ruiz, who says it's as if you've been domesticated the way like a puppy is domesticated and trained, right, by society. Or another way that he puts it is that by osmosis you've got a kind of cultural download. Almost all the beliefs and values of society have been downloaded on you as if like you were born as a blank disc and you literally got a program downloaded onto you. And there are some viruses in there. Not all the programming is good. Some of it might be malware and whatnot. I don't think he goes that far, but he describes that in different terms, but that's the idea. So whether or not that's true, that's up for you to decide. But the point that I'm trying to make is when you're taking an intro to philosophy class, or even if you're not, if this applies to you now, this is a good time when you're at least a young adult, you're mature, you have at least some leisure time to sit back and think about your life, right? Of course, you can't do that if you're struggling to pay the rent or you're in danger, or, just having a difficult time just getting through the day, right? But if you have a little bit of space in your life for thinking, maybe even just when you're lying at the beach looking at the clouds or sitting in a park, that next time you have some time, some leisure for contemplation, something like meditation, consider taking a step outside of all of your beliefs. It's as if you have been always looking through a set of glasses that are blue, let's just say, and the whole world is being seen bluely by you. Everything has a blue tint to it because you've got blue lenses on. So a philosophical confirmation process is the process of taking those glasses off and looking at them and contemplating the way in which your glasses might be coloring your experience. And by your glasses, I mean all of your beliefs, values, habits, modes of being, ways of speaking, ways of thinking and acting, carrying yourself, instinctively reacting, right? You've cultivated all of these modes and ways of being. Most of it by osmosis. We are a social species. We mimic each other. That's how we learn almost everything. We learn language by mimicking the sounds and figuring out what they mean and then using them. And when we misuse them, people correct us, right? So much of everything that, like the language that we use, the way that we think, which is tied to the language that we use, almost everything that we believe has come to us through our senses from other human beings in our culture. And our religion is just one thread of the larger culture that we're in. unless if you're in a kind of monoculture, that's just the religion and that's the entire culture. It might be harder for you to step outside of that if that's your experience. But I invite you to undergo the process of philosophical confirmation. Take a step back from everything that you think you know and look at it like taking your lenses off and looking at them to see, do they have cracks in them? Are they smudged? Are they foggy? Are the glasses bent? Right? Are they maybe distorting the way you see things? Right? So philosophy is an opportunity. What does the word mean? Love of wisdom, right? Philia means love in ancient Greek, and Sophia means wisdom. And wisdom is maybe understandable as a kind of collection of insights or a plateau that you reach where you have a kind of embodied set of insights that are wise and that can guide you in your life. Right? So philosophers seek wisdom, love wisdom, care about wisdom. You love something, you're naturally attracted to it, you care about it, you tend to it, like if you love your garden or your pet or your partner or whatever, you do what you can to improve your relationship with them. The love of wisdom is the same, it's no different. Right? But philosophical confirmation is a kind of initiation, a conscious, deliberate intention to take a step back and look at which of my beliefs and habits and practices and lenses and modes of operation, my modus operandi, which of them are really mine? Which of them do I really, on reflection, all things considered, if I wasn't born into my culture and my family, right, looking at it as objectively and impartially as I can, is this really plausible? Is this really true? Do I know this to be true? Or is it just an opinion that we, my group, all shares? And that's just groupthink. How much of what you believe is just groupthink, right? So I invite you to undergo a philosophical confirmation process. One of the great tools in a toolkit of someone undergoing this process of philosophical confirmation, which ideally is lifelong, right? But there can be periods of your life where that's what you focus on, like if you're in an intro to philosophy class. One of the greatest tools is meditation. Sitting still, closing your eyes, calming your thoughts, calming your emotions, and taking a step back and just becoming aware of how thoughts and emotions and desires arise and how they associate with other ones, and to be able to look at them without being fully identified with them. In meditation practice, you cultivate this ability to step back and kind of watch the stream of consciousness flow, right? So you're not actually in it, right? So you're looking at your mind rather than looking with your mind through your senses, through your beliefs, through your frameworks at the world, right? It's a kind of figure ground shift, right? Normally our senses and our beliefs are what we might want to say is transparent to us. We don't see them. We see the world through them. They're transparent, like the clear glasses. You don't see the glasses until you take them off and look at them, right? So if you can take them off and hold them at a certain angle, then you could see if there's any smudging on them or whatever. That part that you can see is, we call that opaque. It's opaque. You don't see through it, you see at it. So meditation enables you to have a kind of transparency to opaqueness, or opacity means the same thing, shift in perspective, where you can see your cognitive apparatus and how it works, and then kind of critically assess which parts of it might need some adjustments. Are there principles or modes or ways of being that can be altered? Or just to say, oh, I do believe that, but you know what? I don't really think I know if that's true. Another great tool in this process comes from Rene Descartes, who had this brilliant insight, this one incredible, among many others, but this one incredible insight, which is that doubt and knowledge are contradictory. If you really know something, you're certain about it. right? And one of my students recently, when I was asking them, what's the difference between doubt and knowledge? She said, if you really know something, somebody can try to get you to doubt it by presenting various arguments and whatnot against your belief. But if you really know that it's true, they won't succeed in getting you to doubt it, right? But if someone can succeed in getting you to doubt something, then you didn't really know it. You just thought you did, right? And I thought this was brilliant. She hit the nail on the head, right? And my explanation of why that nail was hit on the head is that knowledge implies certainty, right? You can be certain about something but be wrong. But if you do know something, you have certainty about it. It's not a two-way street. Knowledge implies certainty, but certainty does not imply knowledge, because plenty of people are certain and they're obviously wrong, right? But if you truly know something, it comes with certainty, right? So, what is doubt? Doubt is the slightest or the greatest uncertainty about something. If you say, I doubt that, that means you're not certain that it's true. Or you might even think that it's false. But you certainly lack certainty that it's true. And this is a matter of degree. A little doubt or a lot of doubt is still uncertainty. Even a fraction of uncertainty is the opposite of certainty. Certainty is 100%. Uncertainty is 0 to 99% of the opposite, right? So Descartes' brilliant idea was that, well, he realized that some of his beliefs that he acquired when he was younger turned out to be false. And in his book called Meditations on First Philosophy, by which he means where you should start first, the ground, the foundation, the beginning, right? In his first meditation, there's 6 meditations in that book, he says, I realized that I need to he didn't use this phrase, but I need to do a philosophical confirmation process. I need to go through all of my beliefs once and for all. Now that I'm mature and I have some leisure, I've been putting this off. I know I need to at some point, and I'm going to do it now, have a philosophical confirmation exercise where I go through all of my beliefs and sort them out, right? So I could differentiate between the ones that I know and the ones that I don't know, right? And he uses the method of doubt. Right? So let me review my beliefs, and if I can doubt them, then clearly I don't know them. And if I don't know them, I'm going to kind of push them aside. And I want to try to clear the board of all those opinions that I got before my philosophical confirmation that were handed to me by my religion, my society, my culture, my family, my friends, my teachers, and so on and so on and so on. Let's see if I could wipe them all out and expose every single one of them, or every category of them, because you can't go through all of them one at a time, right? And see if I could doubt. If I could doubt it, that means I don't know it. That's not the foundation of my knowledge, right? So he did that for a variety of other reasons. He's trying to establish some kind of new methodology in science and in philosophy. His use of that tool is more elaborate and evolved than what I'm just trying to share with you right now, which is, that's a brilliant tool. Those 2 great tools, right? Use doubt to test whether or not your opinions, your beliefs, are appropriately considered knowledge by you, or mere opinion, mere belief, mere speculation. Things you've taken on by trusting others, the testimony of, all of the different sources of your knowledge, which are mostly other beings, other human beings, most of them, right? So use that technique and use meditation, right? To calm your mind, pay attention to the equipment, right? Look at the glasses to see if they're clear, right? Trust your doubts, right? A lot of our social and cultural commitments, right, to the groups that we identify with. I'll use religion just as an example. If you were raised in a particular religion, then your family, your grandparents, and all your ancestors going back for generations were committed to this belief system. So you feel like a morally, socially ethically, culturally, family level commitment to maintain those beliefs, right? And so within that kind of network of beliefs, it's frowned upon to have to doubt the system, right? Yeah, I don't want to reject the beliefs of my parents and so many of my ancestors who might have even fought in holy wars to defend those beliefs, right? But, what's more important to you, the truth or commitments, right? Shouldn't you be committed to the truth? Well, if you're a philosopher, you're committed to the truth. One friend of mine who's a cognitive scientist and philosopher has a really good thought experiment that he uses on students to get them to realize that they really do have a commitment to truth, even though in this day and age, a lot of kind of cultural philosophy or kind of everyday philosophy, what's become a kind of norm is for everybody to think there's no such thing as truth. It's all relative. You've got your views, I've got mine. It's true for me, that's true for you, but not for me, and all this kind of stuff. And he asked his students, how many of you are in what you would consider decent, good, committed relationships? Romantic relationship, and like maybe half of them will raise their hand. I said, okay. Those of you who raised your hand, how many of you would want to know that your partner was cheating on you, even if you knew that that would end the relationship? And almost all of them raised their hands again. And he'll ask them, why? Why does that matter to you? And almost invariably, the answer will be because you'll find out that that wasn't a true love. That wasn't the truth. The relationship wasn't real, right? Reality and truth are the same thing, right? So what's more important to you? Maintaining your belief commitments, which are for other beings other than yourself, or finding out what you really believe is true, what you really value, what you really aspire to, who you really want to be. Your beliefs and your values define who you are. Shouldn't that choice be up to you? You do have some freedom of belief. If you can doubt a belief, then it's optional for you to maintain it. Right? If you can't doubt a belief, then you must maintain it. If you can't believe something, well, that choice has been made for you. You can't believe that 2 plus 2 is 43, right? You just can't. You can't believe that squares are round, right? But if there's something in the gray area, if you can doubt it, then it's kind of optional. Is it more plausible or implausible for you to believe it? All right? So I encourage you, when you have the time, a little bit of leisure, at some point in your life, to initiate the process of philosophical confirmation. Now, I am not a kid anymore. I'm in the later years of my life, but I've been going through that process for many, many, many years. I mentioned that I went through it religiously in my teens. I've gone through it in many different periods of my life where I said it's time for me to sit back again and re-examine myself, right? This is something that I think everybody should do periodically, if not constantly, right? The philosopher is somebody who on some level is always sensitive to the possibility that their lenses are off and that therefore they're acquiring beliefs that are inaccurate. Another reason why it's good to do it almost all the time, or at least on some level, like keeping the pot of water on the stove after it reaches a boil on a low flame to keep the water warm, right? Simmering. It's a kind of philosophical confirmation. Simmering is because, by analogy, our beliefs form a map of reality. And we need our maps to be in sync with reality. But reality is always changing. So our beliefs need to be upgraded, like the latest, computer update, right? For your software. If you don't get the updates, then, your operating system isn't, maximally efficient. By analogy, if you have an old subway map for a city that you haven't visited in a while, right? The subway lines might have been rerouted. If you use the old map, you're going to get lost, right? So our beliefs form our map of reality. So it's important for us to almost always keep a low flame of being mindful of the fact that, we have tendencies One philosopher who I know, who I met at a 2 week thing that we did on consciousness. His name is Alva Noe, Noe. He made the analogy that this effort is almost like we have to constantly be cleaning off our glasses. Otherwise, the world gets foggier and foggier for us, right? Which reminds me of a Run DMC lyric in the song "It's Like That," and that's the way it is. Or I forget. I think it's just called "It's Like That." I just go through life with my glasses blurred. It's like that, and that's the way it is. That's not the way it is. That's a choice, right? It's a choice to go through life with your glasses blurred. Sometimes it's important to put blinders on to focus on your goals and stuff like that. But in general, it's good to constantly sync and update your software, your cognitive software, to reality, right? And philosophical confirmation is a kind of effort that you can revisit periodically or kind of almost always just have your antenna up, right? Is my reality tracking antenna working? Right? Like a weather vane on top of a house. It shows the way the wind is blowing. Our minds are kind of like reality vanes, like a weather vane detects the weather or the wind, the direction of the wind, right? So you want to make sure that your reality tracking mechanism, your consciousness, isn't rusty or stuck or frozen. That's what dogma is. Right? Being stuck. You're no longer, it's like having an old map and you say, this is my map and nothing can make me change. And people might think, oh, that guy's really strong minded. Well, really, in a way, he's bragging about the fact that his mind isn't working anymore. He's no longer in sync with reality. Right? So that's my philosophical preaching to you. I encourage you to initiate or continue periodically or constantly engage in some low flame level of philosophical confirmation. I hope that was useful.